Commuter rail. Welcome back to Montreal, one of the few places in the world so French that they made KFC francisize their name. It's PFK, that's what I'm getting to. Today we're not talking about Montreal's fantastic metro or the cool swanky new REM trains. No, we're talking about the other rail service. This is EXO, Montreal's commuter rail network, a storied, expansive system that for the most part can't even bother to run on weekends. Yeah, oh, you want to go to Condiac on Sunday? Well, guess what? Fuck you! But this video is not just important because it's another thrilling installment of Transit in Depth, but also because it's the return of one of my favorite people to this channel, my dad.
Woo!
I've heard a lot of people call this North America's worst commuter rail. I'd beg to differ, but let's go give a ride in EXO.
I was very hyped for this outing on this snowy Friday in November, not only to ride some cool commuter trains, but also for my dad and I to visit the Expo Rail Railway Museum just outside of Montreal. A must visit, by the way. They even have a tram line, the last in Greater Montreal, technically.
Yeah.
Hey Dad, what do you think about this level boarding? Montreal's EXO commuter rail network is basically the fossil record of Canadian rail policy colliding with suburban sprawl and refusing to fully die. And like a zombie, the corpse shambles on to this day, albeit comfortably using these nice bi-level carriages that kind of remind me of the ones in Go Transit. Yeah, they got these some years back and they're way better than the gallery cars they replaced.
As it turns out, I was wrong. There is an elevator in here.
Yeah.
Let's see how it is. How do you say it smells? Fun. Want to ride it down, back up? No kidding.
And you know, like most things in Montreal, these things are generally a bit cleaner inside than their Toronto counterparts.
The track quality here has seen better days. Well, Dad, how would you say the seat ranks? Nice? Yeah, we'll try that. Oh damn, it is kind of weird that there's no tray table or anything, but yeah, the legroom's pretty decent.
The EXO lines themselves come from the golden age of North American rail transit. Most of the rail corridors were built in the late 19th and early 20th centuries by private railways like Canadian National and Canadian Pacific to haul freight and long-distance passengers. Suburban service existed, but it was incidental, something railways tolerated when it made money and quietly killed when it didn't.
Also, much like Deutsche Bahn, you do not go through fare gates to ride the commuter rail here. And no one here has made us tap a ticket or anything, so I guess it's a honor system, but that's fine.
Also important here is the Montreal Rail Tunnel, built under downtown going to Deux Montagnes lines, one of the rare electrified rail lines in Canada, meant to at one point be part of the never-built Metro Red Line, but now used by the REM. Ooh, exposed stone, how very Stockholm of them. Here's one of the locomotives that used to run on that. I love rail electrification, Canada needs more of it.
They certainly lay it on with the random stops, don't they? Also, I'm surprised there's no outlets or anything.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, in Germany at least there are.
Anyways, back to history. After World War II, cars ate everything in Canada. And it wasn't yummy. The result was clearly the aesthetic result of an upset tummy.
So it's interesting, the further we get from Montreal, the smoother the ride quality is. We're about to get off at St. Catharines to go to the Railway Museum, but my final thoughts is EXO was pretty good actually. Yeah.
CN and CP, wow, what an unfortunate acronym, steadily abandoned commuter services through the 50s and 60s as highways expanded and suburbs sprawled outward. By the early 1980s, Montreal was down to a single remaining commuter rail service, the Deux Montagnes line, again electrified in 1918, kept alive mostly because ripping out would have been more trouble than running it. Everything else was gone, tracks still there, passenger service dead. Well, except for Via Rail Canada, but you know. Passenger service dead. The modern system began as damage control. In the mid-1990s, Quebec started realizing that endless highway expansion was a losing game and that rebuilding rail from scratch would have been wildly expensive. And this is a mindset that it has maintained, what with the Rem de l'Est plan, well fuck, at least there's a tram there now. The answer for a regional rail sense was to resurrect commuter rail on existing freight corridors. And what's the difference between regional rail and commuter rail? Simple. One serves people who commute into the city in the mornings and back in the evenings, and the other is actually useful. Oh, look at the RDC car! In 1996, the AMT, Agence Métropolitaine de Transport, took over planning and launched new lines one by one. The logic was brutally pragmatic. Use tracks that already exist, accept mediocre frequencies, and design everything around peak hour suburban commuters rather than all-day regional mobility. My god, damn, that's sad. Here's a gallery car. Get Chicago'd.
At home in Stade, Germany, we have smart cars with plows for clearing snow. Here in Montreal, they tend to use things that are a bit bigger.
Through the 2000s, network expanded outward. Blainville, Saint-Jérôme, Mont-Saint-Hilaire, Candiac, Vaudreuil-Hudson, Mascouche. I'm trying my best. Oh god, my Anglophone's showing. Trains were infrequent, slow, and at the mercy of freight railways that own most of the infrastructure, because like in the US and Canada, passenger trains have to yield to freight trains. I know technically that's against the law in the US, but the freight railways don't obey that. It's a tale as old as mediocre commuter rail service in North America, and for what it's worth, it still wasn't the worst service in Canada. Look, I used to live in British Columbia. The West Coast Express in Vancouver sucks ass and runs like 3 times a day, and like on the West Coast Express, on the AMT, passenger service always came second. This wasn't regional rail like in the European sense, even like we have in a tiny town like the one I just moved from here in Germany, Stade. It was commuter rail in the most literal office park sense, optimized for 9 to 5 downtown work trips and not much else. Oh, and a lot of the stations are park and rides. Yeah, this is where transit-oriented development goes to die, I guess.
This is incredible.
So I really gotta specify like the extent of the mediocrity here, because according to YouTube analytics, most of my viewers come from, in this order, Germany, the UK, and Canada, with the US and Denmark as of late trading blows for spot number 4. I may bitch about the S5 line in Hamburg a lot, but at least the DB isn't at the mercy of some class 1 freight railways. They're just at the mercy of the CDU, which, okay.
Tracks interlaid in the brick here. This is what it looks like near us. This is what it's like to ride the trams in Bremen.
In 2017, the AMT was dissolved by the city of Montreal and replaced by EXO, spelled all lowercase because Montreal secretly craves to be a more Jewish Paris. All the while, planning authorities shifted to new ARTM. The idea was to simplify governance, unify fares, and make the system just more generally usable. And that worked for all of basically 3 years. Yeah, almost immediately, like I think 2019 or so, the REM's plan showed up and shattered the illusion that EXO's model was quote-unquote modern enough.
Oh god, this is so fucking cool.
The REM is frequent, automated, grade separated, designed for all-day use. Look, one of these systems has platform screen doors at every station, and the other can't even have a unified central hub in downtown Montreal. Gonna make Gare Centrale feel woefully underutilized, actually.
Now that's what I call a clean shitter.
See, EXO's trains are timetable-bound, peak-oriented, and constrained by freight traffic. When the Deux-Montagnes line was shut down, rebuilt as part of the REM, didn't just remove Expo's best line, but it replaced serves with something that really does feel more comparable to what we have in Europe, and makes EXO feel just that much more underwhelming by comparison. It's kind of a thing, isn't it?
I am very surprised that they just aren't using the destination board, so it just says EXO.
This contrast has only gotten sharper with time, you may ask. Well, if EXO lost her one core electrified line, there are already constraints in the early 2020s from the REM, why not invest into electrifying the other lines? And that's a good question. As much as I want to fully blame Canadian Pacific and unfortunate acronym rail, the blame also lies partially on Montreal itself. Basically, with how municipalities and stuff work here, it's kind of a miracle whenever something gets done. And even when something great is created like the REM, future plans can still be stymied. I mean, again, really, tram. We could have had another full REM line. We already know the originally planned automated light metro works, well, damn it.
That is a very high bridge over the river.
As of 2026, EXO is facing serious financial trouble. Instead of being treated as essential regional rail infrastructure, it is dealing with budget cuts, service pressure, and staff layoffs, most recent cuts at time of recording being announced mere weeks ago in January 2026. Expansion plans have stalled, frequencies are hard to improve, and the organization is being asked to do less with less. Even as population growth and climate targets demand more transit, not less. And even though there's one singular new EXO station works I visited briefly while in Montreal visiting my parents, it's an info stop that seems to mostly exist to just aid REM connectivity. So to put it simply, the REM gets the capital spotlight, EXO gets austerity.
Yeah, no, I don't understand why this one gets such a bad rep, especially compared to a lot of its peers in the US and even other parts of Canada. Like the West Coast Express in Vancouver, I think this is really quite good, actually.
Oh, anyways, I've done enough bitching. Let's get into some maps. EXO has 5 lines, and it's a commuter rail network that's basically Montreal's get you in now of downtown machine. Now, even though it is 5 lines today, as I mentioned with the REM, historically it was 6. By historically, I mean going back like 6 or 7 years. 6-7 joke for you youngins there. Starting in the west, the Vaudreuil-Hudson line is the classic workhorse. It runs from Lucien Lallier Station downtown all the way out through the West Island to Vaudreuil-Dorion and Hudson. It's got lots of stops, solid peak hour service, very traditional commuter rail energy, diesel trains, long rides, and plenty of time to finish, I don't know, a charming YouTube video from a transgender creator. Please buy my merch or support me on Patreon. And big shocker for the whole network, it gets weekend service. Hot damn. This is the only line that gets that.
I really feel like EXO gets too much crap. I think it's actually a really comfy system, and I would like to see more investment in it. Maybe small day surf. Yeah, you agree, Don?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Very nice. Kept playing, suits are comfortable.
Yeah, I agree. I think the hate might be a little overblown.
Heading north, we get to the Saint-Jérôme line, which connects downtown Montreal to Laval and the Laurentians, terminating in Saint-Jérôme. This one feels like a bridge between city life and cottage country, especially as you get further out and gets more and more rural. It's popular with North Shore commuters and is one of the longer routes in the system, mixing dense urban stations with more spread out, single-family suburban ones. Really, actually, I don't hate it.
And I think it sits for an hour now.
On the east side, the Mont-Saint-Hilaire line runs from downtown to the Richelieu Valley. It's a quieter, more limited service route compared to the big western lines, but it's super important for South Shore commuters who want a straight shot into the city without dealing with traffic. It has a very, you just use this for weekday commuting personality, you know. It's not flashy, but somewhat reliable, and I guess it does that decently well.
Oh, you can see where the old AMT logo was. That's kind of cool.
Also in the South Shore, the Condillac line heads south from downtown towards communities like La Salle, Sainte Catherine, and Candiac. This one is shorter and very peak-focused, designed almost entirely around rush hour demand, though actually I was very pleasantly surprised to see that it actually had service throughout the day when we were riding it, say for a few hour gap in the early afternoon. If you live along this corridor, it's a huge quality of life upgrade compared to sitting on a congested bridge every morning. But again, no weekend service, what the hell? However, it does have a direct connection to Expo Rail, and trust me, we love transit-accessible transit museums here.
This is so rad.
Then there's the Mascouche line, which is kind of the oddball of the family. It runs from Mascouche in the northeast through Terrebonne and Repentigny, then takes a long and direct path around the north side of the island before finally reaching downtown. It's kind of a slog. Because of infrastructure limitations, it doesn't go straight through Montreal like some of the older lines, but it was a big expansion when it launched and brought commuter rail to areas that didn't have it before. Its so winding speeds are so slow though that quite frankly describing my inner thoughts as lies perhaps best left for a therapist's office. And if you live along it, yeah, I bet you drive to work, don't you?
I got to say, these are much nicer than the fare gates in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Those close so damn fast.
What you may notice going through all the metro lines, the REM, or EXO is that none of these hit the airport. There's a Via Rail station that technically serves Montreal Trudeau Airport, but it's not actually at the airport, and if you want to be taken to the station, you can request a shuttle bus from Via. Oh joy. Thank God the REM is being extended there in the next few years.
Dear railway operators, what the fuck are these? Put in some real benches. This isn't accessible, that's just hostile and painful.
Let's talk about the legendary EXO 6 Du Montan line, the one that changed everything and that has now become the REM. This was EXO's, and before that AMT's busiest, most metro-like commuter rail line, running electric trains through the Montreal tunnel from downtown up to Du-Montan. It even had its own special rolling stock instead of using classic gallery cars. Up until the mid-2010s, it actually had these single-level trains that I think just looked so much sleeker. You could actually see one of those on display at Expo Rail, by the way. It had high ridership, frequent service, and was already electrified, which made it very different from the rest of the mostly diesel network. I would dare even call this line, even before being converted to the REM, kind of modern feeling. And that difference is exactly why it became the backbone of the REM. Services on the Du-Montan lines shut down in late 2020 so that the entire corridor, tracks, stations, tunnel, everything could be rebuilt for the Réseau Express Métropolitain. I feel like I'm somehow committing a crime every time I try to say something in French, especially Quebecois words. I lived in Canada. I studied French in school. Come on, Jamie, you're better than this. We put in Celine Dion. Instead of traditional commuter rail, the Deux-Montagnes corridor was converted to a fully automated, high-frequency light metro system, which is what we have today. When the REM's Deux-Montagnes branch opened in 2023, when the first bit of it was opened in 2023 and then actually extended to Deux-Montagnes later in 2025, see my video on it, it replaced EXO 6 entirely, offering way more frequent trains, more modern stations, and seamless integration to a larger railroad network.
I wish they had more fake controls right here for kids to play with like they do on the SkyTrain. Yeah. I mean, I like as is, and I mean, the bar is very practical.
And how does the REM, formerly EXO 6, compare with EXO? Well, as it turns out, it kicks EXO's ass in pretty much every category. It's hot, it's cool, it's green. Not like environmentally friendly green, I mean, it is, it's electric train, but I mean, the trains are literally green. It's just better. I think part of why it's like this in Montreal with the railway disparities, it's institutional. Take the Mascouche line. If you want a case study now how institutional constraints can kneecap rail service, well, here it is. Enjoy, have fun, c'est la vie. The Mascouche line opened in 2014 was pitched as expansion, new territory, new riders, proof that commuter rail still had a future in the northeast suburbs of Montreal. On paper, it looks decent, but in reality, it's a fucking hodgepodge. Source, trust me fam, I wrote that. And you know, it sucks because I feel like on a political level, if you bring up all the problems I just mentioned with EXO in Montreal nowadays, despite the great REM extension opening last year, I kind of feel like local politicians will latch on these concerns and use them as an excuse to close down the rail service and replace them with buses instead of just, you know, investing into EXO to bring it up to par of the fabulous REM and metro services. Yeah, I said that. The Montreal Metro rocks. I love these rubber-tired monstrosities.
Oh, that's a great shot.
It is.
Sorry, I'm foaming.
The REM really does make the comparison so brutal. It runs all day, every few minutes, ignores freight entirely due to the dedicated rights of way, and it treats reliability as non-negotiable. I know people have criticized me in the past for quote-unquote fluffing up the REM or whatever, but I'm serious when I say that I think this has been North America's best new railway project in my lifetime, at least for the US and Canada. I really gotta get my ass to Mexico at some point. The Mascouche line, especially by contrast, but really I feel like a lot of EXO, feels like a negotiated settlement with railways from another century, and as we're back when I lived in Canada, I would affectionately call the Via Rail problem. Issues caused by freight railways, lack of funds, a lack of political will to really do anything noteworthy about it. When things go wrong though, most of the time they just kind of go wrong quietly. A canceled train here, a longer dwell there, nothing dramatic enough to cause outrage, just enough friction to bleed riders over time. But that builds, and eventually people just give up and switch to other transit modes or even driving, and that reputation spreads. This bit is directed at the Deutsche Bahn. German government, please give them more money.
A bunch of really nice stations. So here feels a little bit parking heavy. Here, maybe you can see out there. Maybe not.
Now, as of 2026, EXO isn't being given the resource to fix any of this, and that's led to it being a bit of a funding crisis. This now means that instead of adding frequency, buying better, newer rolling stock, or clawing back control over infrastructure, so you have cuts, layoffs, and pressure to somehow rationalize service despite having fewer resources. EXO released their plan for 2026 about a month back, and the current plan is basically there's no room for even attempting to expand, they are just trying to survive. And that sucks. I know I've really reamed them here, but I don't hate EXO. I actually think they deserve better.
Dad, I'm having so much fun. I'm just taking photos of train shit.
So today's EXO commuter rail network survives a weird precarious middle ground. It still carries people, still uses corridors that would be politically and financially impossible to rebuild from scratch, still represents a refusal to fully abandon commuter or even regional rail in the Montreal region, but it also shows the limits of half measures. EXO to this day continues to exist, or at the very least persist, and keeping it alive, even underfunded and compromised, preserves a possibility that someone someday might decide to take regional rail seriously again here. That's my hope, at least. I'm cautiously optimistic for the future with the REM and all. I love Montreal, despite what YouTube may say. Between the time I spent growing up and really becoming an adult in Victoria, BC, and my many jaunts to Vancouver and Montreal over the years, I think anyone who says urbanism is dead in Canada is kind of full of it, even if, much like EXO itself, it's perhaps not living up to its full potential. And for all of EXO's faults, hey, at least the seats were comfy. Coming from Europe, my ass liked what it was feeling here.
You know, actually, I think the people calling this the worst or whatever are completely full of it. It's a very nice ride. Yeah, it's a bit old, right? It's seen better days, but a little squeaky. But it's clean, and they don't make you have to have a door attendant like on the MBTA. And yeah, and it's certainly a hell of a lot better than the West Coast Express, which I think you and I have taken a few times. Yeah, yeah, it's fine.
So thanks for joining me today. This video is all voiceover because I am still in the process for moving from Stade to Bremerhaven. But hey, I have a folder full of questions from my Discord server and my Patreon, both linked below. Today's viewer question actually comes from my husband, Xander. They ask, when are we getting more videos of Grumpy Spouse? They're my favorite character on the channel. I find it really funny because actually most of the times when Xander's been on the channel in the past, it's been really chill. But we get weird comments because that one ICE first class trip we did where we got like 4 or 5 hours delayed, and at the end they just felt done with the Deutsche Bahn.
Is first class on the ICE worth it?
Xander, by the way, also co-admins the Discord and handles setting up a lot of things like the merch store and, well, comment moderation here. You never believe the amount of general nastiness and even death threats we have to filter through and report, and as seen after we did the ICE first class video a year and some back, some of that even got directed at them because I guess they had no right to call off as annoyed when our train was delayed for hours on end. Hi.
I'm not having a good time.
How are you feeling?
Fucking cold.
Also, even though Xander often claims to just be a filmer by marriage, they've been known on occasion to just hang out and shoot the shit with my dad, and sometimes that involves just talking about trains. They're both rad. I'm not gonna lie, they're both two of my favorite people on the planet.
Look at that no scale.
You get cars like that.
We also have that exact number 42 locomotive right there.
Yeah.
God, this got personal and wax nostalgic a bit. So here's a video I made of a clip my friend Felix sent me of 2 NO trains touching tips. I'm not sorry.